things off with our game of the weekend, which is the big one. On Saturday lunchtime, it features the two teams who were the pre-season favourites with SBK to win the championship. It's Leeds v Burnley at Elland Road. Leeds are the 8-11 favourites to win this one with SBK. A Burnley win is around 4-1. The draw is around 3-1. Did you know, Justin, this is the first time these two have met in the championship in more than 8 years? I don't know if that surprises you or not.
8 years? What we're going back to? What, 2016? I almost in my head.
Good maths. Well done,
almost,
mate.
Yeah, but almost in my head, I was going to say 2012. Now I forget the last 4 years have happened. That's incredible. Time.
Okay.
Wow.
Any thoughts you want to handle?
Just crazy, isn't it? You know, life.
It's crazy how time happens. Well, speaking of time, as I said a short while ago, at the start of the season, these two were the two pre-season favourites to win the championship with SBK. Before the season started, Leeds were just over 3-1. Burnley were 8-1. Then Burnley moved in to become the 11-4 favourites after 3 games, with Leeds 4-1. But now SBK think Leeds are well and truly in the driving seat. They're as short as 7-5 to win the league now, while Burnley have drifted out to 8-1. Crazy how much things can change, but it goes some way to showing how up and down things have been for these two in the space of a few weeks, Justin.
Yeah, we say up and down, but Leeds only really stuttered a little bit, whereas Burnley have sort of.
When I say that with Leeds, I'm thinking off the pitch when everyone was having a meltdown at Elland Road after Jorginho Ruta left,
and then that's definitely going to impact sort of people chucking money towards Leeds, isn't it? But this is it. This is you get August out of the way, and this is where I wouldn't say the business end, because it's the business end is definitely the end of the season, but you've got to get to the business end. You've got to put the planning in place for the business to happen at the end of the season, and this is very much that phase. But this is, again, as I say, it's a really important phase of the season. We saw teams like Southampton go into September last year really stuttering, losing heavily before embarking on an incredible run of games unbeaten. So this is the bread and butter of the season. This is where you've got to get the wins early, get them in, get a run of form going, and go into the cold, desolate winter months in some sort of form.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, one constant for Leeds so far this season has been that man up front, Mateo Joseph, 20 years old, started every game so far and has had a flying start to the season, hasn't he, Justin?
Yes, he's been brilliant. I don't think he will ever be a player that scores 25, 30 goals. That being said, he'll probably get to sort of 25 years old and be scoring 30 on the regular. I think I might describe him as a bit of a Bobby Firmino kind of striker, a player that's got to be in that final third. He's going to knit things together. He's going to get the best out of the wide players and any attacking midfielders that come in. A player that's going to be comfortable playing with his back to goal, but also be a spark in between the goal, in between the 6 yard box and whatnot, and add a goal threat. So, and I think we're seeing that as well. His goal against Hull just before the international break really embodied the ideal number 9. He got ahead of his marker at the near post. He was thinking quicker, and he was quicker physically as well before poking the ball home. And there's unselfishness around him as well. We saw against Sheffield Wednesday with his 2 assists. He also scored the winner against Scotland under 21s for Spain under 21s, with Spanish media oozing over him. So, yeah, this is a bad time to be playing Mateo Joseph. Very bad time.
Yeah, we've both been very impressed so far, haven't we? And you know what? I do like the Bobby Firmino comparison as well, Justin. Sometimes your comparisons are a bit awkward, but that one does make sense. Yeah, he has that goal against Hull a couple of weeks ago. That was his only goal that he scored so far in the championship, and really he should have more because he has missed some good chances. But otherwise, his work up front has been sublime. To lead the line as maturely as him at such a young age is a really exciting thing. He holds up the ball so well. He has no problem running at defenders, works his socks off as well. We spoke to Dan James about him last Sunday, and he says he's always staying behind on the training ground to do extras. So, getting his first goal against Hull last time out, I get the sense it could be the opening of the floodgates kind of thing with him, Justin. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do, because it's going to breed confidence. And again, the way he scored his goal, it was a proper striker's goal. Getting ahead of your marker, being first to it, preempting the cross at the near post, understanding your teammates where they're going to put the ball It was a very good number 9's goal. And as you say, opening the floodgates, maybe just opening the tap a little bit. I think the floodgates implies he's going to score 6 in 6, which is a very difficult thing to do when you're 20. So lumping that expectation on him is, I wouldn't say unfair, but probably not the right time to do it. Let him feel his way into the season. Let him be him. Let him.
I'm just saying. Like, hopefully he'll start putting his chances away. Is what I'm saying. I'm not expecting him to turn into Alexander Mitrovic after scoring 1 goal. Justin, you're getting me completely wrong.
Well, if he's scoring it for Spain under 21s, I'm going to contradict himself entirely here. If he's scoring for Spain under 21s and he's the next in line to lead Spain's dominance internationally once again, then maybe the floodgates might open. He might score 6 in 6 and become Alexander Mitrovic, but. We'll see with form.
Yeah, but we'll see. You've compared him to Mitrovic and Firmino now. I say we, Justin.
A lot of expectation here. I said don't put expectation on him, while in the same sentence putting a lot of expectation on him.
Yeah, classic. Speaking of Burnley, they've definitely had a very up and down season so far, haven't they? They had that fantastic opening weekend win against Luton where everyone was foaming at the mouth over them, and then it's not been the most convincing few games since then. And then, of course, they had the transfer window where a lot of people were a bit concerned about the number of players potentially heading out the door, but they've come out the other side of the window in a better state than many of their supporters certainly feared. But I struggle to see them getting anything from Elland Road, Justin. First of all, you've got Leeds coming off the back of back-to-back wins. They're looking strong up front with the aforementioned Matteo Joseph in form, the additions of Manor Solomon, Larger Ramazani, Willie Nonto stayed put, and then you've got Dan James coming off the back of a fantastic interview with us. Meanwhile, Leeds haven't conceded in their last 3 games. XG-wise, they've got the second best defence in the league so far, while Burnley are the joint top goal scorers in the league, but that paints a bit of a false picture, doesn't it? Because they've failed to create more than 0.8 XG in their last 3 games. I don't see much going Burnley's way here, Justin. What do you think?
There's a lot to do with Leeds with this, and a lot to do with Parker Ball in what is influencing the thought process behind this game. Obviously, you've got Leeds being a very good attacking side themselves. Okay, they haven't scored as many as Burnley have this season, which I'm sure people will screenshot the league and tell us that. But not only have Leeds had a sustainable amount of creation, they've also been wasteful at times as well. You go back to that Portsmouth game where they scored 3, but they battered Portsmouth. They should have scored 6. Inspired goalkeeper performance from Will Norris and a crossbar that just did not want to budge. They should have scored a lot of goals. And I think that's the key difference here between Leeds and Burnley, in that Leeds are very sustainable at creating chances, and therefore chances will continue to come, whereas Burnley score when their chances come, which is a nice habit to have, but it puts a lot of pressure on those chances being taken. And obviously you've got the fact that Leeds are a very good defensive side as well. Very, very good defensive side. I'd argue they're probably a better defensive side at the moment than they are going forwards, which is quite frightening because they've looked very good going forwards, but even better defensively. So, yeah, it's a sticky game for Burnley, a very sticky game. But they have looked good on the break, haven't they? They have looked good on the break. It's just whether or not they can break down this Leeds side and find those gaps.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really difficult, isn't it, for Burnley to get anything from this game. The only thing that slightly sways me here is Scott Parker's record in games like this. I think we can safely assume Leeds will finish in the top 6 this season. Well, Bournemouth only lost 1 in 10 games against the other top 6 sides in their promotion season under Scott Parker, while with Fulham, he only lost 3 in 10. So he does have form in big games like this, Justin, which would put a bit of doubt in my mind. Do you see what I mean?
He's good at sort of picking the gaps. If you think back to their...
Well, we saw it with Luton, didn't we, Justin? We saw it with Luton, when it comes to, wanting to just contain the opposition and then hit them when they're vulnerable, he's shown that he can do that.
Well, yeah, this is the weird paradox for Scott Parker is that he can tactically set his teams up very, very well. Very, very well. If you go back to the Bournemouth spell where they had to win games to get ahead of Forest and Huddersfield in the race for the second place a couple of seasons ago when Bournemouth went up under Scott Parker, there was a lot of sacrifice with their style of play, if you like. And I think this is where there's a bit of I wouldn't say an identity crisis. I think Scott Parker wants to play a certain way, but he's better at playing a different way. And even that the playoff win against Brentford, they sacrificed a hell of a lot, took it to extra time and won relatively comfortably without Brentford really laying a glove on Fulham. So this might be that sort of game where Scott Parker sets his teams up to be better defensive unit and hit Leeds on the counter, because we saw that against Luton. Didn't create a shed load of chances, but they created some really, really good ones on the break. And that's the risk that Burnley will face in this game.
Yeah, and I think Scott Parker will be happy with a point here, Justin. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. What with that? Going to Elland Road? Yes. Yeah. Elland Road.
Even though Burnley are a big hitter in this league, aren't they? They should be expecting or should be looking to get 3 points from just about every away game this season. I think they'll more than tolerate just a point here.
Yeah, did Leeds lose one game or 2 games last season at Elland Road? They had an incredible home record last season. It's a very difficult place to go and get points. So if you can get something and take it back to Turf Moor with you, absolutely you take it.
Yeah, got to be said, Leeds also had a pretty good record against the so-called top teams, didn't they, last season? They did the league double over both Leicester and Ipswich, I think I'm right in saying. So something else to keep in mind here, a bit more food for thoughts.
There's a very new-look attack for both of these sides as well. That's another thing, is how they've gelled over the international breaks. There's a lot of factors here that just come into the thinking. But as you say, I think if you're going to pick something, it's going to be Leeds.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Justin, it's now time for our second tier bet builder. Our friends at SBK, they're offering a 50% boost on any £5 bet builder for Leeds United versus Burnley. And offers like that, combined with SBK's industry-leading odds, make it the best place to bet on the EFL. If you don't believe us, sign up today and find out for yourself. So every Friday, we're making our own bet builder with 4 selections, all relating to our game of the weekend. That's 2 for Justin and 2 for me. Justin, kick us off. What is your first selection for this game?
I've gone with Matteo Joseph to score any time. He's a man in form at the moment. I know I've earmarked him out quite often already. You'd probably get bored of me talking about him because, well, he gives me a lot to talk about. And as far as number 9 goes, I think he's perfect for this Leeds side. Yes, he's not a big strapping lad. He's not my beloved Kiefer Moore, but he offers something different and number 9 gives you. He's very unselfish. He works for his teammates and he is starting to find that goal-scoring touch, as we were discussing and as demonstrated against Hull and obviously Spain over the international break. So yes, Matteo Joseph to score any time, please.
Yeah, and speaking of Joseph, he's got the highest non-penalty XG out of every Leeds player so far. And as we were alluding to, he should have more than 1 goal, but don't take anything away from him. He is a man in form right now. And hopefully that first goal against Hull last time out should be the start of him getting a few more to his name. My first selection for this game is Burnley to get the most cards. Now, you know I love a card selection, Peachy. I was trying to pick out a player to be carded, and while I struggled to pick out an individual, when I was doing my research, I just kept coming back to Leeds having so many players who are foul magnets. You've got Junior Firpo is the second most fouled player in the division so far. Willie Gnonto is the 5th most. Dan James attracts a fair few fouls as well. And if this game pans out like we think it will, I can see Leeds going ahead, controlling the game. Burnley may get a bit frustrated, pick up some cards along the way. So that's my thinking with this one. Are you all right with that?
Yeah, Burnley have got the 5th most yellow cards in the division so far this season. Probably a lot of those came against Blackburn.
I was going to say
before the international break, so quite hard to decipher there. But listen, you love a card shout. You're as well researched in cautions and referees than anybody I know right now. So I'm going to back you on this one.
Thank you. I think that's a compliment. Justin, what's your next selection?
I've gone with Burnley to score under 1.5 goals. Now, again, we've alluded to a lot of it, but just to summarise it again, a lot of this stems from Burnley's general poor ability in the first 4 games to be prolific chance creators. I'm not going to say they sit in a false position, but you cannot maintain the level of chance creation that they do and rely on your players to keep putting their chances away. A lot of pressure. They actually sit 4th bottom in the Championship for shots on goal, which is very surprising. Now, just before the international break, we were describing Derby as one of the most negative teams we've ever seen at Championship level in the first few games. Derby have had more shots than Burnley, so that tells you the improvements that Burnley do need to take. And again, as we discussed, Leeds are a very good defensive side. They're not going to give Burnley too many chances. It's going to be a game where they need to be clinical, Burnley. I can't see them having too much on offer here, but they could nick one. This is why I've got the security.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, particularly when they're coming to go up against the team who have got the second best defence in the league when you look at it XG against wise. I see what you mean. I don't think Burnley are necessarily in a false position. I think they're in a false position when it comes to the amount of goals they've scored.
Yes.
I think that one is pretty undeniable, really, because for them to be joint top goal scorers so far and at the same time have the fourth lowest XG, I know we've mentioned XG a lot here, so I apologise, but that does seem a bit insane. So yeah, that's what I would say. I'd be very surprised if Burnley managed to get, even a goal, really, let alone two. So this selection does make sense, Justin. And my selection for this bet builder, my final selection, is Leeds United to win. We've been discussing it for the past few minutes, but this should be a Leeds win. The Scott Parker factor, which we mentioned just a second ago, gives me a slight bit of doubt, but otherwise everything is pointing to a Leeds win for me here, Justin.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if you go through the trouble and the frustrations that Scott Parker had over the transfer window and the time he's going to need to settle those players, those signings in, and almost, I wouldn't say develop a new style, but you've got to get those new players coming in and buying into the plan and the philosophy. Could take time. I think Leeds are probably in a slightly better position where they probably don't need to rotate the team as much as Burnley might, so that could play a hand. But I think the headline here is Leeds are very strong at home. They're going to be very strong at home, and they probably have more strengths to counter Burnley than Burnley do to counter Leeds. So yeah, very hard to disagree with that selection.
Yeah, absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, our bet builder for this weekend in Leeds v Burnley is Matteo Joseph to score any time, Burnley to get the most cards, Burnley under 1.5 goals, and Leeds to win. And a £5 stake on that returns £44. Thanks to SBK's 50% boost. But remember, if you don't fancy our bet builder, with SBK, you can create your own bet builder from a range of markets. T's and C's apply, over 18s only. And please gamble responsibly. Just before we take a quick break, Justin, and while we're on the topic of Leeds, their former captain, Liam Cooper, has signed for CSKA Sofia in Bulgaria. Bit of a strange move, but it's nowhere near as strange as the announcement video they've put out for it. It's of him driving around in a Mini Cooper, get it, because Cooper, and while he's doing that, there's this electric guitar playing in the background while you've got some dodgy voiceover bloke going, legendary, classic, aggressive, iconic. It's like they're going for a movie trailer style car advert where it's an Audi driven by, I don't know, Chris Evans. I think that's what they're going for. And then it finishes with Liam Cooper getting out of the car and the dodgy voiceover bloke going, here to switch gears. What's it mean? What does that mean?
It's an incredible video. I will add that the production value is out of this world. It is fantastic. It is the pinnacle of transfer announcements. And now Burnley have got a lot of credit themselves over the past few months, and actually past 12 months or so, with their high production value of announcing transfers. But this is the pinnacle. You do not get better than this. That being said, it's so fucking random and incredible. Like the voiceover guy sounds like, the old piracy adverts. Like, you wouldn't steal them. You wouldn't steal from a shop. You wouldn't shoplift. I'm sure it's the same guy. But the absurdity of this is, no disrespect to anyone who plays in defence, why is a centre-back getting this sort of announcement? It doesn't matter, it's Liam Cooper. It's a centre-back.
Yeah, considering it's so high production, lads, it is Liam Cooper. No disrespect to the guy, but it does feel a bit over the top for who it is. Do you know what I mean? If
they'd assigned like a 33-year-old ex-journeyman who played in the Premier League, it's one of those signings. I'm trying to think of a random player. Like Juninho Paulista, the former Middlesbrough player. Like if he was still in his prime and he'd just gone to sign for CSKA Sofia at the age of 33, 34. That's the sort of announcement video I think he should get. But Liam Cooper, centre-back, in his 30s. Why?
Yeah, they should have got the voiceover guy to be a bit more accurate with his script, shouldn't they? So be like, steady, he'll do you a job for the season. That kind of thing.
Leader on and off the pitch.
Good in the changing rooms. That kind of thing. I think that would have made a lot more sense, wouldn't it? Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll make some more predictions ahead of the weekend's action in the Championship. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. Before we get on to the rest of our predictions, Justin, we have got some suggestions for Coca-Cola's man and Power's man. This is after the recent trend on Twitter with Barclaysman. We put out the call yesterday for listeners to get in touch with the Championship version, which we're coining Coca-Cola's man / Empower's man. Joe Bartram, he's been in touch and says Matty Bloody Friat, which is a name I haven't thought of in a long time, Justin, but I'm always here for it.
A really good goal scorer, actually. Very consistent goal scorer, and very unlucky with injuries as well. Wasn't there a thing with him, like sort of a legal case where he was suing Forest or something like that?
I
don't know if we need to get into that now.
No, I can't remember what it was now.
Completely irrelevant. Let's remember him for his football.
Matty Friat suing Nottingham Forest over treatment at club while injured. Well, if anyone fancies some Friday afternoon reading, then there you go. Kev Thompson has suggested Carlos Edwards, another one who's always fondly thought of for me, just in many of his feet sat Sunderland in that promotion season. But he was also very good for Luton as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was very good for Luton. I thought he said mainly for his feet. He also a good signing for Ipswich as well. Again, I think he defines different areas, actually. Very consistent player.
Yeah. Played all across all along the right-hand side as well, doesn't he? I think he still plays as well, by the way. I think he's still going.
Must be getting on a bit now. Yeah.
45 years. Plays for Hadley United. Not sure where that is, but fair play to him. Nick Gregory has got one. John Oster, another good shout.
Yeah, John Oster's a great shout. It's weird upbringing. He could take set pieces. I remember him scoring a goal for Grimsby against Derby, one of my first games watching Derby. And it was probably one of the best free kicks I've ever seen live. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. But again, a very underrated player, very good for Reading. And I think he went to Doncaster as well.
I was going to say Doncaster. Doncaster rings a bell. Yeah. He was a very mercurial kind of player, wasn't he? Where he could pull off something sublime, but then not much else for the rest of the season. And Simon Jenkins has got the final one. He says Michael Chopra, who I'm always willing to give a shout out to on this podcast because he was unbelievable in a Cardiff shirt, wasn't he?
You know what? I don't think that Cardiff attack under Dave Jones gets the recognition it should get, because that partnership of Jay Bothroyd and Michael Chopra was just disgusting. The amount of goals they scored was ridiculous, and he still didn't go up. One of the best teams to never get promoted from the Championship.
Yeah, had a very strange career afterwards as well, because he went to India with Kerala Blasters, Alloa Athletic, and then went back to Kerala Blasters again. So, quite an interesting one. Do you know what his first name is, Justin? It's not Michael. Michael's his middle name.
Okay, go on. Indulge me.
His first name is Rocky.
Rocky Chopra. That's such a better footballer's name.
It really is. Why didn't he call himself Rocky Chopra? That would be fantastic. If you do have any more suggestions for Coca-Cola's man / Empower's man, then please get in touch, secondtierpod@gmail.com, or alternatively, just DM us on Twitter. And I'm sure we'll give the best ones a shout out. Right, it's time for us to have a look ahead to the weekend, ladies and gents. And in each preview episode of the Second Tier, Justin and I will each pick a banker, a team we think is guaranteed to win this coming weekend, as well as an outsider, so someone we think is going to win, but is bigger odds with our friends at SBK than their opponents. We're tracking how we do as the season goes on. It's 1 point for a correct banker, 2 points for an outsider. Whoever loses has to do a forfeit, which we have decided is going to be a mascot at an EFL game next season, preferably in the Championship, but that's dependent on who lets us actually do it. The current scores look like this: 4-2 to Justin Peach. I pulled one back the last time out with my banker of Leeds to beat Hull. I've let Justin have his fun at the start of the season just to make him feel better about himself after being humiliated last season. Now I'm going to crush him.
Do what you want. Do what you want. I'm doing this for the fans. I'm doing it for the people who want this win. For everyone, you're very much. I don't think you're as highly regarded amongst the supporters as me. They want me to win. This is a bit like trying to end Manchester City's dominance. No one likes you.
Fair enough. It's a bit harsh, but completely fair enough. When I've been as dominant in the predictions as I have been over the past couple of seasons, it's understandable why people want to change. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen, as we're going to find out this weekend. Justin, tell the people your banker for this weekend.
I've gone with Middlesbrough to win at home against Preston on Saturday. Firstly, apologies to Middlesbrough fans. 2 times I've picked you already this season. Picked you as a banker, and they dropped points in both of those games. Should have won both of those games based on the game domination and chances you created. So actually, rather than blame me, it's maybe the players. Last I checked, I do not play as Borough's number 9. They should be so lucky, but Borough are the second highest team when it comes to creating chances in the league. So the hope there, and actually expectation is that quality is going to shine here. Especially, it's always weird after the international breaks. I always feel like games aren't as fully flowing yet, because I think players are just getting back into the swing of things. But I think with Middlesbrough under Michael Carrick, they've shown time and time again that actually they don't fall too far away from their usual game plan of just attack. And I will add, this is the last time I'm going to pick Borough as a banker. If they let me down, I'm not going to do it again. I'm sick of wasting points on them, and I can't afford it. As I say, a lot of chatter here from me, trying to put you down, and it's true. But I need to wise up to it. And if Borough don't come in, I just can't do it anymore. Can't do it to myself. Can't do it to the fans.
That's completely fine, Justin. To be fair, they have been a bit unlucky so far, haven't they? They've got the highest XG in the league, and considering they have definitely deserved more than what they've got in terms of points so far, yeah, they probably could have earned a few more. And look, they should beat Preston, who, even though they have got a new manager now, they have had a pretty rocky start to the season. So one should suspect Middlesbrough should win this. Just a bit of uncertainty when it comes to Middlesbrough actually putting their chances away, really, doesn't it? One transfer we haven't really spoken about from the end of the transfer window, Justin, is Ben Doak joining Middlesbrough on loan from Liverpool. Now, he's not someone who's been on my radar too much, but over the international break, while hearing about Scotland's struggles, I didn't realise how much hope they as a nation have got in Ben Doak. They are really hoping he becomes the next big thing in Scottish football. He got his first 2 Scotland caps in this international break just gone. I'm suddenly really fascinated to see how he gets on at Middlesbrough, Justin, and seeing how he develops under Michael Carrick.
Who was the previous big thing in Scottish football?
I guess Scott McTominay, Billy Gilmore, perhaps. You're looking at them, aren't you, I suppose?
I think it's, I mean, just to relate it to another ex-Liverpool player, Ben Woodburn, who's seen as the next hope of Welsh football because he burst onto the scene and ultimately faded away. And I think he's now at Salford, isn't he, in League Two after being at Preston for the last couple of seasons. So I think it's quite easy to sort of pin a lot of hope on a youngster, but you've got to allow him to express themselves and find their way into things. I've said it time and time again that listening to sort of interviews with academy directors, players don't really come into their form years and consistency until they hit sort of 20, 21, 22 years old. So Ben Doak's still got years to develop, and this loan spell actually probably at Middlesbrough is going to do him well for a number of reasons. You've got Cameron Archer, who's a really good example of spending time under Michael Carrick and improving. So hopefully Ben Doak gets that sort of exposure. But I think it's really important not to label him the next the biggest thing to happen to us. He almost adds that expectation of he needs to come good. But actually, just let him play football. Yeah,
I'm completely in agreement, Justin. It's just Scotland with their recent misery. They're putting a lot of.
It doesn't help that Steve Clarke never smiles. I feel like if he smiled, they might win more games.
And Ben Doak will become the next Messi, is what you're trying to say. Yeah, he's certainly one to keep an eye on for anyone who's got a passing interest in Middlesbrough. Yeah. See how he gets on under Michael Carrick this season. Let's go to my banker for this weekend. I've gone with Sunderland to win away at Plymouth on Saturday afternoon. Now, I would say this is a meeting between the team I've been most impressed by and the team I've been the least impressed by. Sunderland have had a stunning start to the season. Not only have they won every game so far, they've done it so comfortably. It's been the perfect start as far as they're concerned. Joint top goal scorers in the league. Only conceded 1 goal so far, and that was an own goal. Just running out of superlatives of how good Sunderland have been, and I'm sure it'll be a common theme the longer this brilliant start continues. And it's difficult to see that brilliant start stopping against Plymouth, because they have looked so poor under Wayne Rooney, particularly going forwards. I don't know what the game plan is here for building attacks, and it says a lot that they've got by far the lowest XG in the division. I put out a tweet last week showing Plymouth's best chance that they've created in XG terms from these first 4 games, and it's a shot from outside the box after capitalising on a lapse from the opposition defence. That's the best chance they've created in 4 games. So now they're coming up against a team who have yet to have an opposition player score against them and have by far the lowest XG against in the league. I know I've mentioned XG a lot in this episode, and I apologise, because I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it basically summarises that it would be quite a turn for the books if Plymouth even come close to scoring here. So I'm very confident about a Sunderland win in this one, Justin. Give me something that will put some doubt in my mind.
Wayne Rooney scored that free kick last week.
They'll have seen that and been inspired. That's the only thing they've got going for them, is it?
They're going to watch it and they go, right, this is what our manager can do. Let's try and replicate that. Not necessarily a free kick, but with quality. Or they're going to go, holy shit, if we don't book up our ideas, this man is going to come out of retirement and put us all to shame, potentially. No, on a serious note, it is very hard to see Plymouth getting one over Sunderland here. I think the only thing I can really suggest to counter that is Morgan Whittaker and his ability to completely defy your favourite term, XG. The man can score from anywhere. He can score from anywhere. And I think if there's going to be an illogical win here, it's going to be Plymouth scoring with 1 shot on target where Morgan Whittaker piles one in from 25 yards and Sunderland missed a boatload of chances and they go back up to Wearside on a 10-hour coach journey that I should be making with them with the tails between their legs. So I think that's the only thing I can really say, but there's no logic to it. There's no logic to it at all. Because Wayne Rooney,
how likely do you think that is to actually happen, Justin?
Very, very unlikely. But that's what I'm saying here is very illogical. There's no logic to it because Wayne Rooney hasn't provided us, or Plymouth have, they've not provided us with any solid evidence yet that they can win a game.
Yeah, they've got the perfect mix right now, Sunderland, of obviously restricting chances for the opposition, but creating chances and being clinical as well. This is what happens when you've got a team banging form, and Sunderland have been banging form. The international break came at a bit of a bad time for them, really, didn't it? But this is the perfect way to just pick up where you left off, because I don't think you could choose your opposition better right now than Plymouth, unfortunately. So there are mine and Justin's 2 bankers for this weekend, and every week we combine these 2 selections with a bet on the full-time result of our game of the weekend to create our very own second-tier featured multiple with SBK. So this week we're going for Middlesbrough, Sunderland and Leeds, all to win. That again, Middlesbrough, Sunderland and Leeds, all to win. I've got a good feeling about this one, Justin. I've got a good feeling. I'm telling you now. And a £10 bet on that returns £45. With SBK, you can create your own multiple with 3 or more bets on the full-time result of any game from across the Championship. T's and C's apply, over 18s only. And please do gamble responsibly. Justin, it's now time for us to go on to our outsiders for this weekend. What you got for me?
What have I got for you, Ryan? I've got Oxford to beat Stoke at home. I was surprised to see that Stoke were favourites for this game. But I know the statement I'm going to make here is that I think Oxford have started the season better than Stoke, but actually they sit on the same amount of points so far. But I think the case there is Oxford have probably looked a little bit more convincing than Stoke have. And I think there, with that as well, Oxford have shown a bit more of a willingness to compete, or a bit of a willingness to compete amongst the teams that they face both so far. And both of their wins this season have come at home. So for me, I think if they're going to get a result over Stoke, the higher chances is going to be at home for Oxford. I know Stoke are a much better away side than they are at home. Their home record is really, really poor for a long time now. Actually, you're going down seasons through seasons, checking that form. And I think as well is that you've got the form striker in your division, Mark Harris, Chopper Harris. He's in incredible form. He had a great August, scored 4 in 4. Cameron Brannigan has been brilliant as well, and Kieran Brown at the back has also been fantastic. There's a lot brewing at Oxford, and I think you're probably going to get bored of me chiming on about them, but they've really, really impressed me so far this season. So to see them as an outsider, I thought I was rubbing my hands here. There's more points for me on I'm not going to say guaranteed because I don't want to jinx myself, but there's a good chance here.
Yeah, I was interested to see this as your outsider pick, Justin, considering I thought Stoke were your dark horse for the season.
It doesn't mean I can't pick against them. It doesn't mean I've not sliced my wrist and we're not blood brothers. I don't have to commit to them for the entire season. I'm allowed to go against them whenever I feel it. This is trench warfare. You've got to make tough choices.
It feels a bit like you have a tendency to have one team who you've just got hubba eyes for, and it was Stoke at the start of the season. Now you moved on to Oxford, and it's like you're rubbing it into your ex-partner's face.
I'm Andy in Toy Story when he's playing with Woody, and then Buzz comes along, and it's like I'm done with you now.
I don't want to play with you anymore. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, Stoke, you've been chucked in the bin. You did mention Mark Harris just there, Justin. He could make history in this game. If he scores, he'll be the first player in Championship history to score in each of his team's first 5 games of a season. And I tell you what, that would be some going, wouldn't it? And it would be a great highlight of how bloody unbelievable his form has been so far this season. It
would, absolutely would. It also rub salt in your wounds, wouldn't it? Because you didn't believe in him, and I did. And this is what's inspiring him at the moment. He's clearly an avid listener of the podcast, I hope, and he's clearly listened to what you've had to say, and he's gone, actually, Justin, I'm with you. Let's do this. Let's do this for you. And I like to think that every single goal he scores is for me, and it's showing. It's showing.
I don't recall you being massively on the Mark Harris is going to score 1 million goals this season hype, but I'll take your word for it. I will admit I've been completely taken aback by how many goals Mark Harris has scored so far this season. I never expected it, but fair play to him. I think I'm right in saying only Erling Haaland has scored more goals in 2024 out of all the players in the top 4 divisions of English football than Mark Harris. Which is not bad going at all, is it? But we've still got loads of time left in 2024, so he still could catch old Erling yet.
I'm going to add as well that I've not seen Erling Haaland score the same goals that Mark Harris has scored. Yeah. Not only has Mark Harris scored from 30 yards out with an inch-perfect volley, but he's scored with his penis as well. Haaland cannot do that. He cannot do that.
He can score with a can of Monster, though, can't he? The big goth. Right, let's go to my outsider. I've gone with Luton to win away at Millwall on Saturday lunchtime. Didn't go too well for me last time out when opposing Millwall in my predictions, but that's not putting me off this weekend. The reason I'm going with this is because the tide simply has to turn for Luton sooner rather than later. Just 1 point from 4 games. Rob Edwards needs that to improve. Now, I think you can say Luton had mixed fortunes in their first 3 games. The most recent loss to QPR was a bit concerning in the way that Luton completely lacked control in that one. However, I think the international break has come at a really good time for Luton. It's kind of like in boxing when you have a stinker of a first round and then you go back to your corner, regroup, get things back on track. And put it this way, whatever you think of Luton's start to the season, this squad is too good to be struggling as much as it is. I think we can all agree with that. This shocking form can't continue forever, or shouldn't continue forever, when you've got players as good as they have. One player in particular who is due a goal is Elijah Adebayo. He's missed some massive chances so far this season. He's got the second highest XG in the league for an individual player when not including penalties, and he's still yet to score. However, he's not the only one underperforming. So I fancy Luton to get back on track sooner rather than later, and why not away at Millwall this weekend? That's why I'm going with a Millwall loss and a Luton win.
Millwall have started the season very, very well performance-wise. Results haven't really gone there.
I think it's a bit hard to judge Millwall just now. I think you're being a bit generous there.
I'm not. I've been really impressed with how they've been attacking. I really have, and it's a complete far cry from what we expected from this Neil Harris side. They've been a little bit more sort of on the forefront. They've wanted to attack teams, and they've created some really good chances because of it. The chances they are missing, granted, but they're still scoring goals. And I don't know. There comes a point where I wouldn't say this is going to define their season, but the next run of games for Luton will define their season. They have to pick up results, and I think that puts a pressure on them. And going to away at Millwall straight after the international break against a team that have started better than you, it's a very, very difficult one. I'm sitting here very uncomfortable for Luton. And as you say, the strikers missing chances as well is not a good habit. Really, not a good habit.
It's not a good habit, and I think everyone would probably be a bit surprised to find out that Carlton Morris and Elijah Adebayo are still yet to find the back of the net so far this season, considering they're two very, very good strikers. I do slightly disagree with you on Millwall just now. I think they've been surprisingly very good going forwards, but a bit shaky at the back. Now, they were dominant against Sheffield Wednesday last time out, but they're another side who it's really hard to judge after these first few games. So I'm not putting any, I'm not nailing myself to the mast when it comes to Millwall, right? Because I just don't know what to make of their start so far. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one to judge Millwall, but if you're looking at Luton, their squad should be doing a lot better than it is. And I think that will turn sooner rather than later. And of course, they've now got the addition of Victor Moses. Could he play his first game back in English League football for the first time since 2018? We discussed his surprise return to England in yesterday's episode. Could he feature here, do you reckon, Justin, or is it a bit too early?
It depends. I did see his pre-season videos on his Instagram. He's been training in his back garden, which is I love, by the way. He's fantastic. But I don't know whether that equates to match fitness or not. It's a difficult one.
Probably not, I'm going to assume.
It depends how big his garden is, doesn't it? I didn't see the whole of his garden. He might have a whole track and field there. We don't know. But if you're going to chuck an experienced player in, you've got to do it at the Den, haven't you? But that being said, you don't want to rush him. You don't want to rush him because he's just come from Russia. That's a really terrible pun.
That was abysmal. He was at Spartak Moscow, as you alluded to, and even though he was getting a fair bit of game time, he hadn't actually started a game of football since October last year. He was mainly coming off the bench. So, he's got a bit of catching up to do, what one would suspect. And that's why I imagine it's probably a bit too early for him. But whether he will come off the bench, I'm not too sure. But yeah, very intrigued to see how that one goes, just because it's such a very random signing, isn't it? Right, those are our predictions for the weekend. Now, it's time for this.
All right. Settle down, you lot. It's time for the Craig Bryson pub quiz.
Yes, it is, Mr. Barman. It's the Craig Bryson pub quiz, and this is how we get down in Funky Town. I'm going to give Justin 6 clues about a former Championship player, each more revealing than the next, and he simply has to guess who that bugger is. They must have made over 200 Championship appearances in their career, and don't forget the Dexter Blackstock rule. They must be more relevant than Dexter Blackstock is. And that's something for you to keep in mind, Justin, here.
I do keep it in mind, and that's why I've picked very, very not obscure players, the opposite to obscure, the very obscure players to Dexter Blackstock.
Do you want your first clue?
Rule. Yeah.
Instead of just rambling?
You asked me a question and I answered it.
Yeah, I'm getting some very Donald Trump rambling vibes coming from Justin. Let's go to your first clue, Justin. It's this. I have 242 Championship appearances, scoring 18 goals.
You're a central midfielder if I ever heard you. I'll shoot in the wind for damn it.
Here we go.
James Conner.
Just had to name any player who's ever played in midfield in the Championship, and he took that long to think of someone. Who did you say at the end?
James Harper.
James Harper, great. He's not James Harper. Second clue. I made my senior debut in football for Manchester United in 2004, but was sold in 2007 for £1 million, which Sir Alex Ferguson said was too cheap.
Was too cheap. And he made 242 championship appearances. And you were sold in 2007, did you say?
Yes.
I reckon you've gone to like a Sunderland who have just come into the Premier League. So I will Liam Miller?
It's a good shout, but it's not Liam Miller. Good to hear him mention, though. Third clue is this. At championship level, I played for 6 clubs in total, including, but not comprising of, Justin, Preston, Blackburn, Wolves, Sheffield Wednesday, and Derby County.
Preston, Blackburn, Wolves, Sheffield Wednesday.
And your precious Derby County.
Derby County. Wolves, Sheffield Wednesday, Preston. David Jones.
He's bloody nailed it, ladies and gentlemen. What a shout that is. Fair play to you, lad. Fair play. I thought it may trick you because I think he's quite a forgettable kind of player, isn't he? But well done, Justin Peach. David Jones, the correct answer here.
Yeah, they were almost his worst spells, really, I think. Lone spell at Preston. His Wolves spell, because he scored that ridiculous sort of flick and volley free kick, didn't he, for Wolves?
Yeah, but which doesn't happen enough for me. One where you get someone to lay it back to you, you flick it up and then volley it and it goes looping up. Do you want the rest of the clues?
Yeah, go on then.
I last played for Wrexham before retiring in 2022 and I'm now a coach there. Would you got
that? Probably not, because I didn't know he was still a coach there.
Well, there you go. I have also played 112 times in the Premier League for 4 teams, including but not comprising of Wolves, Wigan, and the team I made twice as many appearances for as any other club, Burnley.
Weird, I know him more so from his Burnley spell, but he was such a good footballer. He just
But a bit of an underrated one, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, he really was. But I don't think he spent long enough or played enough games at certain clubs. Like, I was gutted when Derby sold him because I thought he would really do something.
I was also surprised to find out he played 112 games in the Premier League.
Well, he's a long time at Burnley and obviously at Wolves as well.
Yeah, but 112 games, that's a lot, isn't it? That's particularly for someone who's played so many games in the Championship as him. And the final clue was, I also share my name with a prominent Sky Sports presenter.
David Jones, yeah.
Yeah, what on earth does happen there? What?
For some reason, I just thought about Simon Thomas.
Sometimes you are the thickest person on earth.
It is incredible, really, that I got through university. Did surprisingly well there. Have started a podcast, which is doing surprisingly well, and also have obtained, a good job as well, which is, again, I'm doing very surprisingly well at. I don't know how I'm doing it.
Wow, that is some way to end the show.